Hélène Jégado was born on a modest farm in Plouhinec, Morbihan, situated near Lorient in Brittany. Tragedy struck early in her life when her mother passed away when she was just 7 years old. Subsequently, she was sent to live with her 2 aunts, who worked as servants at the rectory in Beaubry. After a span of 17 years, she accompanied one of her aunts to the town of Séguier. There, she took on the role of a cook for the local cure, but an incident arose where she was accused of adding hemp from his grain storage to his soup. Her first suspected poisoning case came to light in 1833 when she found employment with another priest, Father François Ledrogo, in the nearby village of Gurn. During the 3-month period between June 28 and October 3, an alarming sequence of 7 sudden deaths occurred within the household, including the priest himself, his elderly parents, and even her own visiting sister, and Jégado. Despite her convincing displays of grief and piety, suspicions were not aroused, potentially due to the recent cholera epidemic in 1832, which could have masked the true cause of these deaths. Returning to Beaubry, Jégado replaced her sister and sadly witnessed the passing of 3 more individuals, including her other aunt, over the span of 3 months. She later relocated to Lochman, where she stayed with a needleworker named Marie-Jeanne Labouture. Unfortunately, both Labouture and her daughter succumbed to death, while her son fell ill but survived, possibly due to his avoidance of Jégado's care. In a similarly unsettling occurrence, the widow Laurie extended hospitality to Jégado, only to perish after consuming a soup prepared by her new lodger. By May 1835, Jégado was employed by Madame Toussaint, and tragically, 4 more deaths followed, bringing the tally of lives she had seemingly taken to 17. In the later part of 1835, Jégado took on a role as a servant in a convent in Ori, but her tenure was short-lived due to instances of vandalism and sacrilege. She subsequently moved through various households, serving as a cook in Ori, Pontivy, Lorient, and Port Louis. Her employment in each place was marked by brief durations and the unfortunate occurrences of illnesses or deaths. Notably infamous was the case of Jeanne Marie Brieger, a child who lost her life at the Château de Soye in May 1841, a decade before Jégado's eventual apprehension. While her victims often exhibited symptoms consistent with arsenic poisoning, no direct evidence of arsenic was found in her possession. Notably, the period from late 1841 to 1849 saw no suspected deaths linked to her, although she was frequently reported for theft by various employers, indicating a potential struggle with kleptomania. In 1849, Jégado's life took a new direction as she relocated to Rennes, the regional capital. While the exact motives behind her string of crimes remain elusive, there is a general consensus that psychological issues played a significant role. The psychopathology model offers insight into her actions, potentially connecting them to underlying psychological problems. It is plausible that these issues may have originated during her formative years following the loss of her mother. The abandonment she experienced could have led to the development of abandoned child syndrome, a not uncommon outcome when children lose their parents. Jégado herself once admitted that committing these heinous acts gave her a sense of empowerment and enjoyment. In the year 1850, Hélène Jégado became a part of the household staff under Théophile Bidard, a prominent law professor at the University of Rennes. Tragically, one of his servants, Rose Tessier, fell gravely ill and ultimately succumbed to death while under Jégado's care. The following year, in 1851, another maid by the name of Rosalie Sarrazin also fell victim to illness and passed away. The situation raised alarm as Sarrazin's symptoms mirrored those experienced by Tessier. In a concerted effort to uncover the truth, 2 physicians endeavored to save Sarrazin's life, and given the striking similarities, they persuaded the family to grant permission for an autopsy. Suspicion took root when Jégado preemptively declared her innocence before any inquiry had begun. This prompted her arrest on July 1, 1851. Subsequent investigations shed light on a series of deaths, approximately 23 in number, suspected to have resulted from poisoning, occurring between 1833 and 1841. However, due to the passage of time and a lack of scientific evidence, these cases had not been thoroughly examined and thus fell beyond the scope of the 10-year prosecutorial window. Local lore attributed numerous unexplained deaths to her, although many of these were more likely due to natural causes. The most reliable estimate suggests that she might have been responsible for around 36 murders. The trial of Jégado commenced on December 6, 1851. However, due to the constraints imposed by French legal regulations on admissible evidence and the statute of limitations, the accusations brought against her were limited to 3 counts of murder, 3 attempted murders, and 11 instances of theft. Notably, at least one subsequent case appeared to have been dropped, likely stemming from the involvement of a child and authorities' hesitancy to disturb grieving parents through an exhumation. Throughout her court proceedings, Jégado's demeanor exhibited an erratic nature, oscillating between subdued murmurs, fervent piety, and sporadic bursts of aggression directed towards her accusers. Astonishingly, she consistently disavowed any knowledge of arsenic, despite mounting evidence to the contrary. While the physicians who had examined her victims had often overlooked any suspicious indicators, a different narrative emerged when the most recent victims were exhumed, revealing compelling traces of arsenic and possibly antimony. A critical expert witness in the trial was Faustino Malaguti, a chemistry professor from the University of Rennes, who provided his insights on the matter. In her defense, Magloire d'Orange, the appointed legal representative, delivered a noteworthy closing statement. He contended that Jégado required more time than most to express remorse and argued for leniency, suggesting that the death penalty could be spared given her already dire health condition resulting from cancer. Despite the gravity of the case, it received relatively scant attention at the time, largely overshadowed by the coup d'état transpiring in Paris. Ultimately, Jégado was handed a death sentence by guillotine, and her execution took place before a sizable crowd of spectators on the Champ de Mars in Rennes on February 26, 1852.